Are you brave enough to face the wild? Like, subscribe and ring the notifications bell for more terrifying tales of survival. From spine-chilling encounters with apex predators to eerie tales of nature's most mysterious creatures. Join us as we uncover the terrifying true stories that prove sometimes reality is scarier than fiction. Welcome to Savage Tales, Animal Encounters. Listen to the words of Montana hunter Todd Orr as he gives a play-by-play of his near-death encounter, surviving not one but two attacks. The forest was quiet, too quiet. I felt a chill, a primal instinct screaming danger. Not wanting to startle any bears as I navigated the dark morning, I shouted, "Hey bear!" every 30 seconds. Around 3 miles in, just after daylight broke, I emerged from the trees. Immediately I saw a grizzly and her cubs at a fork in the trail at the meadow's edge. Its eyes locked onto mine. Panic surged through me. In that same moment the sow ran away with her cubs along the western trail and out of sight over the ridge. My heart pounded against my ribs, a drumbeat of fear. Adrenaline flooded my veins. I waited for a minute before deciding they had left the area and it was safe to proceed along the eastern trail in the opposite direction. I'd only taken a few steps when the sound of a branch snapping over my left shoulder made me turn my head. The grizzly bear had just busted over the low ridge at 40 yards and was barreling right at me. She closed the distance quickly, pounding fast and low to the ground. I could see her ears laid flat against her blocky head, both eyes on me. My hand instinctively went to the bear spray at my side, a meager defense against such primal force. I knew I was outmatched, a puny human against nature's apex predator. This was it. The moment of truth. My life hung in the balance, a delicate dance between predator and prey. The forest, once serene and beautiful, now felt like a hunting ground. The air itself crackled with tension, thick with the scent of pine and something else, something primal and dangerous, the scent of fear. The grizzly charged. A blur of fur and muscle, it thundered across the forest floor. The ground trembled beneath its weight. I pressed the trigger on the spray canister and unleashed a full blast toward her face from 30 feet away. The force of the grizzly's lunge sent a shockwave through the air, a testament to its raw power. Her momentum propelled her straight through the orange cloud of pepper mist. My heart pounded in my chest, a frantic rhythm against the backdrop of the grizzly's enraged roars. I dove to the ground, pressing my face into the dirt and wrapped my arms around the back of my neck, locking my hands for protection. I was trapped, a gladiator in nature's brutal arena. I expected her to run over me and vanish, but she was on top of me now, repeatedly biting my arm, shoulder and back. I could hear the crushing and tearing of muscle as her long canines sank deep into my right arm with each new bite. I felt the wind of its passage, the raw power of nature's fury. My breath hitched, a gasp of fear escaping my lips. The forest floor became a whirlwind of struggle. The grizzly attacked with a primal ferocity that shook me to my core. After what seemed an eternity but was perhaps only a few seconds, she disappeared, the acrid scent of bear spray still lingering in the air. Stunned, I carefully picked myself up off the ground. I was extraordinarily lucky not only to have survived a grizzly bear attack, but also to walk away from it. I took inventory, substantial injuries but nothing life-threatening, and isolated to my right arm, shoulder and upper back. After looking around to reassure myself the sow was indeed gone, I picked up my cap and the almost spent can of pressurized capsaicin and started back down toward the trailhead and my truck. I kept up a steady pace, slowing only once for a second brief survey of the damage. I felt a searing pain in my arm as a result of the bear's claws, which had raked through muscle and sinew. My vision blurred, the world around me fading in and out of focus. I clung to consciousness, driven by a primal will to survive. Each breath was a struggle, each moment an eternity. Blood soaked both of my top layers, but at least the bleeding seemed to be slowing. I was glad to put distance between the sow and me before tending to my wounds. I knew I could hike the remaining distance and thank God for seeing me through the ordeal. My adrenaline subsided after 5 minutes of hiking. Once I thought I was clear of danger. I had sustained several deep puncture wounds on my arm and shoulder from the sow's powerful jaws. Bloody and in pain, but I was alive. A sudden noise from behind me sent my adrenaline skyrocketing again. I turned to find the grizzly bearing down on me a second time. She had either followed me back down the trail or had cut through the trees and across the ridge, randomly emerging on the trail just above me. The forest, once a symphony of nature's beauty, now seemed eerily silent. Whatever the case, it happened so quickly I had no time to use the bear spray or my pistol. Again I dropped to the ground to protect myself, the bear almost on top of me. I shielded my neck and head with my arms and pressed myself tight to the trail, trying to protect my face, eyes and vitals. The first encounter had been a brutal dance with death, a stark reminder of nature's raw power. I couldn't wrap my mind around what was happening. What had I done to deserve this? I was so lucky to survive the first attack, but had no idea if I could survive another. The sow slammed down on me and ferociously bit my shoulder and arms again and again, with much more aggression than before. The forest, once a place of tranquility, now seemed imbued with a primal energy. The force of each bite felt like a sledgehammer with teeth. One bite on my left forearm went clean to the bone, and I heard the crunch of something breaking. My hand instantly went numb, the wrist and fingers falling limp and useless. A sudden flash of pain made me flinch and gasp aloud for breath. That slight movement and sound triggered a frenzy of bites to my shoulder and upper back. I knew I must avoid any further movement or sound, or the bear was going to tear me to pieces. I focused all my strength on remaining huddled in a ball, motionless. A swipe from her heavy claw opened a huge gash above my right ear, nearly scalping me. A large flap of flesh flopped down the side of my head, and blood gushed over my face and into my eyes, blinding me. Yet I didn't move or make a sound. By this point, the adrenaline had blocked the pain, and it heightened my other senses. The forest, once a source of peace and solace, now felt like a hunting ground, a place where danger lurked behind every tree, under every fallen log. I could feel and hear the pressure of each tearing bite as her teeth sank deep into my muscles. She would lift me up off the ground and slam me back, only to bite again, over and over. Truly this must be the end, I thought. I expected she would soon strike an artery in my neck and I would bleed out on the trail, or maybe she would flip me over and savage my face, eyes and throat. But I knew that any movement would trigger more bites. So I lay motionless, hoping the attack would end before she killed me. She would surely leave to check on her cub's safety, if only I could hold on until then. And then she was still. Was it finally over? Have I managed to survive not one but two ferocious attacks? I will never forget that moment. I could feel the 3-inch claws on her front paws digging deep into my lower back, just below my pack, pinning me to the ground. I could smell a terrible pungent odor clinging to her fur. The woods were dead silent except for the sound of her huffing and sniffing. Her breath heated the back of my neck, just inches from my spine. I tried not to breathe, afraid she would bite a final time and put an end to me. For 30 long seconds she stood there motionless, crushing me with her weight and claws. My chest was smashed into the ground and against my knees, and my face was ground hard into the rocky dirt of the trail. And then the enormous weight lifted from my body, and my lungs slowly filled. I wanted to take in a deep gulp of fresh air, but didn't know if the bear was still nearby, watching me, waiting. Had she gone to check her cubs? I waited, listening, but still, nothing. Then it occurred to me, if she returned, I would not survive a third attack. I must do something immediately. I had dropped the bear spray during the attack. My gun was my only defense now. Staying in the huddled position, I eased my right arm from behind my head and slipped it under my chest to where the handgun had been holstered, along my left side. But it wasn't there. Impossible. I hesitated, focused, and then groped again for the gun. It was definitely gone. All I could do was pray that the ordeal was over. My eyes were filled with blood, and I couldn't see. I carefully wiped the stream from one eye, then the other. I gently raised my head to look around, fearing the bear was close. To my surprise, I did not see her, although I spotted the holster and pistol 10 feet to my left, lying beside my GPS, binoculars and cap. The ferocious biting and pulling had broken the webbing and ripped the holster from my body. I dove for my 10mm and thumbed back the hammer. Still no bear. I grabbed the scattered gear and a second can of bear spray from the holster and began my descent again, head still spinning and terrified the bear would return. Blood was still dripping from my head and both elbows, and my shirt was soaked in blood, which was now seeping into my pants. But an assessment revealed the bleeding was not life-threatening. I knew I could reach the truck without major blood loss. I continued at a fast walk, wanting to put more distance between the bear and me. More than once I tried to jog, but the motion was too painful to my injured arm. After 45 minutes of painful hiking, during which I paused only twice to check my wounds, I finally reached the trailhead in my truck. At last, I felt completely safe. I documented my wounds with my smartphone, laid some jackets over the truck seat to keep the blood off it, and headed toward town and the hospital, about 30 minutes away. I stopped a rancher at his mailbox along the road and asked him to call the hospital to inform them I was on my way. He offered me a ride, but I wasn't worried about going into shock or my driving, and I didn't want to bleed all over his vehicle. So I thanked him and continued on my own. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Savage Tales Animal Encounters. If you enjoyed the story, please subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an adventure. See you next time.